gentlemen, the patch notes for the X-Force Volume 2 update have landed, and they are spicy. So let's jump right into them. The maintenance for this one, since it's a mainline update, there will be about 8 hours of downtime maintenance. It's going on from 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 p.m. Eastern, to midnight Pacific, which is 3 a.m. Eastern. So I will be live here back on YouTube at around 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later, to dive right into this update right away, like we're about to do right now. No spoilers, no summary. We're going to talk about all the good and, like we're looking at right here, some of the bad. So we're getting Omega Red as a brand new mutant. He is a supervillain, a combat type. Unfortunately, let's just get this out of the way, he appears to be only tier 2 for now. There doesn't appear to be a tier 3 or any tier 3 information or any transcended information for Omega Red, which is unfortunate, yes. And then unlike M'Baku, he doesn't appear to have any support abilities, which is good for future prospects of Omega Red, which means that like he'll actually be a good character. But the bad side is he doesn't really have a lot of use right now. You'll be able to obtain him through the X Gene support, which is the sub, and also through the hero chest, so obviously a random chance there. And then the X-Force Volume 2 themed update celebration event quest shop. It's a mouthful, but it seems like you will be able to get his bios to unlock him for free, but only for a limited time, because these event quests usually only last 10 to 14 days, so you have to keep it locked in the game, logging in order to get that. He's got a self-buffing leadership, which is just kind of whatever. He does have a Wolverine, Deadpool kind of healing, where he gets 5% every second when he's under 99%. He has super armor with a 40% increased defense, so this does smell like PvP right now. He has another 35% increase to his max HP on his tier 2 passive with 20% damage reduction. That's kind of low for today's meta. And because he doesn't have any iframe ignore on the rest of his skills or any counterattacks, things like that, it doesn't seem like he's built for PvP right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was built for PvP in the future, because he has the 99% heal that we hope that Kang gets, but who knows. And then he also has a 15% heal for 2 seconds, which is actually a 30% heal on his energy drain ability. He has a bunch of other meta stuff, like increasing his attack, increasing his accumulation, and then he has a 55% frenzy buff, so he's stacked on buffs, no lies there, but just not really sure where we're going to use Omega Red for now. On the other hand, Cable, Strife, and Domino getting brand new looks. Very cool stuff here. Cable getting massive increases, 35% chain hit, 20% crit rate, crit damage. They're buffing his ultimate ability, so his tier 3 with an 80% damage proc. He now has an 85% chance to penetrate, 30% guaranteed crit rate, and then he keeps most of his PvE ABX, ABL focused abilities. So he's got Snare, which is an ABL effect. He's got Silence and Paralysis, which are 2 ABX effects. And then he's got Burn, so he covers all of the ABX stuffs by default. And then he has the Snare for ABL, so he's just missing the Fracture and Shock. Those are the only 2 abilities that he is missing that he would then need his tier 4 for. But yeah, lots of buffs here. The only thing that's a bit questionable is his heal. I believe his healing has gone down. It's only a 15% heal for 1 second, where I think his old healing was multiple seconds, which ended up adding up to more than 15%. So we'll have to monitor that to see if the devs made a mistake. But he's got the accumulation, he's got the barrier, he's got the 60-35 frenzy buff. He's got the invincibility with the 70% damage proc on the 5th skill now. So very strong stuff from Cable. Should be quite interesting. Strife is also looking pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie here. They pulled a fast one on us. They replaced Wasp just like that. Wasp was the only character in the game who had debuff for all allies on her uniform, and then they went whoop and they swapped Wasp out for Strife. Chances are Strife tier 3 is going to be more disruptive and stronger than Wasp, so chances are on every team from now until the end of eternity, Strife is going to be the new de facto replacement for Wasp when it comes to especially Otherworld Battle. But other game modes where you were using Wasp for PvP, you may want to just switch to Strife. Now obviously Strife is a lot more expensive than Wasp, no doubt, but as you can see here on the uniform effect, when debuffed, applies to all allies, 12 seconds of removal with a 20-second cooldown. So literally copy paste the exact same one. They moved his leadership ability over to his uniform effect, and this is very powerful for Otherworld Battle because we know that the game mode doesn't apply leaderships. His leadership now gives all allies 50% basic defense, so this is a nice additional chunk of defense that he can get for things like timeline battle and alliance conquest. Very, very strong, very PvP oriented. He retains his 80% chance to penetrate, which is insane. 50-50 damage, or sorry, 50-30 skill damage, bonus damage. No damage reduction though. That's the only thing that I'm noticing here. He doesn't have damage reduction. Anyways, 5 new skills. He retains the fracture on 1, 2, 3 skills. So his 1, his 3, and his 5 all have fracture. He gets invincibility. He gets a 100% damage proc. He gets a frenzy buff. He gets a accumulation buff, and he gets a 30% heal. And then he also has shock and silence in case, and snare in case you wanted to use him, you know, laterally for things like ABX in the case that you don't have Magneto, and I guess you don't have Mysterio. But I'm pretty sure he's going to be firmly planted for PvP because he also has counterattack and ignore iframe on his 3rd skill, Blast Beam. The only negative thing I can say about Strife's kit here is that he lost the V-pad. I'm very sad they lost the V-pad. And then Domino looks actually pretty good. She gets a 35% attack buff with chain hit and then a chance to increase her crit damage above the 100% cap. She gets guard break immunity passively, which is very, very nice, with a 30% damage reduction. So it seems like they're gearing her up towards PvP. They also give her a counterattack ignore iframe skill with a lot of text. You can see target locked has a ton of text. It's got native penetration, it's got accumulate damage immunity, and it also has accumulation based on her max HP, which is like Jean's, except it doesn't heal her. It increases her attack, and it also reflects. Very cool. So she has an iframe ignore reflect skill with accumulation that increases her damage, and the damage increase will scale her her reflect, which is also very interesting. So could be a pretty annoying character in certain situations. She has a 20% heal on her 4th skill with a frenzy buff, and then she has a 100% damage proc, and she has an ability, or a line of text I should say, that does seem new. Decreases basic damage taken from enemies by 40% and increases basic damage dealt to them by 25%, excluding bosses. So this is a PvP buff. This doesn't work for PvE. And we've probably seen it somewhere else on, you know, some other types of abilities, but never on a skill, an actual skill. So this should be very interesting because she basically gets damage reduction for 5 seconds every 9 seconds. It could be a little bit longer. It could have been like a 7-second buff or whatever, but could be very interesting for Domino. And then Cable's tier 4. Some people are not going to like it. It increases his tier 3 skill charge, so it makes his tier 3 charge faster. And then he gets a basic attack increase by 20% every time he uses a skill. So if you want to max that out, you have to pop 4 skills after you pop the tier 4, which makes it a little bit more, it requires more situational awareness and sort of skill rotation awareness. Strife's tier 3, very much like Apocalypse's tier 3. He rises up, he creates a meteor, and he whips it down. Literally, it's just a blue version of Apocalypse's tier 3. It seems pretty strong, though. Increases his basic attack by 50% and gives him 80% ignore dodge, and it also has our good friend Fracture. Then Domino and Warpath are getting Transcendence skills together. So Warpath is the one joining Domino. They make a black X on the ground for X-Force, which is pretty cool. Sadly, Warpath does not receive anything in this update. And then the biggie here, boys, the biggie. Shadowland is getting improved. Yeah. I was very excited for this when I saw it. It immediately woke me up. I was raging. Very, very happy to hear Shadowland is getting reworked. There's a lot to go through, so I may not cover absolutely everything, but we'll obviously do tons of videos on Shadowland. I love Shadowland. Log in, boys. It's time to log in. It's time to return to Marvel Future Fight because Shadowland is getting some massive improvements, and the Shadowland shop is one of them. Yes, so there's so many things to talk about, but the highlights for this are that they're giving Autoplay Plus to everyone, even if you don't spend money. So Autoplay Plus is being basically unlocked for all players, which is amazing. It means that you don't have to manually play every single stage of Shadowland. You can just choose the character, press start, and the character will autoplay for you. And that's usually good enough to get you wins up into the high floors until you have to take control, past like floor 100, floor 150. They've also added an auto progress feature from floors 1 to 15. So as long as you have beaten it before and it has a record of the characters that you used, You can choose auto progress. It uses up 10 clear tickets every time, and then it just auto clears the content for you and just gives you the rewards. So that's really, really nice. Even new players, or not new players, but even like free-to-play players can basically start every week on stage 15 of Shadowland immediately. It'll be interesting to see if you still get cosmic energy by doing the auto progress. If not, then you may want to not use this during the Cosmic Core event once a month, but that's just personal preference. That's personal choice. And that's obviously to be seen if it still gives you the cosmic energy. It might still give you the cosmic energy, but this is amazing. Like just adding the autoplay and adding the auto clear up to floor 15 is already a huge win in my opinion, but then there's way more that they added, so it's very, very nice. For people that do spend money, however, you are getting an extra bonus. You're going to be able to clear up to stage 25 automatically every week, so there is an advantage to spending money, but in typical Netmarble fashion, it's not a massive increase for spending money. Like if you don't spend money, you can clear up to stage 15 every week for free, right? Just auto, boom, boom, boom. If you spend money, you can clear an extra 10 stages. So it's not like you can clear, 50 stages or 100 stages or something insane like that. So I think that's really, really nice. And then the Shadowland shop has been added. So this one is going to take a little bit of experimentation to really figure out, but you will be able to buy a CTP chest once a month, assuming you can grind up those tokens once a month. They also have an Odin's Blessing chest. They also have some tier 3, some tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 materials. They're specific here. It's only black antimatter, essence of dimension, and carbonadium. So no soul of the Faltine, no Titan component packs, no Nord Stones of Chaos, and they have varying Shadowland token amounts. Now, and they also have the classic Shadowland chest, which you can purchase, as many as you want, which contained various items, including the grand prize of potentially getting a CTP, etc., etc. Now, looking at the token amounts, it does seem like a lot, but that is assuming we have the old system. In the old system, it was 1 token per 1 character. So if you do the math, right, even if you have all 256 characters and you use 1 character per stage up to stage 35, where you cannot claim any tokens, that only leaves you with 221 characters left. And then if you speed run through, if you divide that by 3, and you speed run through the next 74 stages, and you use 3 characters on every single stage, you would get 3 Shadowland tokens on every single stage, but that would only equal another 221 tokens. Right, because you use, each character represents 1 token, and you had 221 characters left over. So 74 tokens. If you could only farm 74 tokens per week, that would be horrible. If that's the system that they implemented, I don't think that's the system that they're implementing. I think they're implementing a different kind of system. My guess is they're going to be just implementing a system where you get a flat 10 tokens per stage, regardless of whether you use 3 characters or 1 character. That's my guess. It's a flat 10 tokens, because then it would still match the baseline cost of the chest, because the chest used to cost 10 tokens, or like right now in the game it costs 10 tokens, which means you need to run 10 stages or whatever, 10 characters to get the 10 tokens. It'll be the same number of stages, not necessarily the same number of characters with the new system here, if they just make it a flat 10 tokens per stage. And that will also encourage players to use 1 character per stage climbing rather than 3 per stage to just speed rush. But yeah, if it's the old system, obviously it needs to be changed. I'm not going to dwell too much on that, but yeah, potentially only being able to farm 74 tokens a week when the lowest cost reward is 100 would be ludicrous, right? Because as it stands now, I can go and farm Shadowland and I can open like 20 of these chests, 22 to be exact. If I use up all my characters, I can open up 22, and I actually might be able to open up 23 because there's a 5 character refresh for VIPs. But that's sort of the baseline that we're looking at here. So if we're going to compare this 1-to-1, then the new system should be giving us, if I have a full roster, it should be giving an account like mine, 2,200 tokens per week. That should be the baseline here for someone who uses up all of their characters. And it might end up being more than 2,200 tokens, but I'm saying that's kind of like the minimum to maintain the same number of Shadowland chests that I'm able to open right now. If they're buffing the rewards, then of course they can lower the number of chests, right? You don't want to lower it too much because then it feels like you're not getting anything out of the game mode. But 2,200 tokens, if you divide that by 100, would allow me to purchase, or an account like mine, I should say, to purchase 22 Shadowland chests. Now, 2,200 still means it's going to take you, what is that, 5 weeks? So just over a month to grind 1 CTP, because you multiply that by 5 and you're able to do this every single week. And that would, so that would take you 5 weeks to get it would take you 2 weeks to get the Odin's Blessing chest. So you could get 2 Odin's Blessings a month, or it could take you 5 weeks to get a CTP, which then means with 52 months in a year, you could get 10 CTPs per year extra from just doing Shadowland. That's pretty damn good. That's not bad at all. So yeah, Autoplay Plus can now be used by everyone, which is amazing. So rock on for that. You can use power saving mode in Shadowland, which is nice. And then this is my favorite line, or actually, this is my favorite line. The conditions and heroes, or villains, that appear in some stages have been changed. Nice. I was hoping this would be more of a, like, they would make more of a fuss out of this, and I was hoping that this would be a bigger part of the presentation for Shadowland, like that they would show off, 10 new stages of Shadowland, 20 new stages of Shadowland, 20 different whatever. But I'm hoping that we see at least like 5 new stages. If it's at least 5 new stages, I'll be really happy. If it's less than 5 new stages, I'll be disappointed. I especially want to see new characters that we haven't had in Shadowland ever, and I also want to see existing characters get upgraded with new uniforms. Like, I would love to fight against different versions of Captain America. Like, just Captain America alone. I know he's a very cliche character, but it would be so cool if there was a Shadowland stage that was just like 3 different Captain Americas. So stage 1, you fight, Age of Ultron Captain America, and then phase 2, you fight Phoenix Force Captain America, and then stage 3, you fight like Hydra Cap, or you fight Back to Basics Cap, or something like that. And it's kind of like the evolution of Captain America. There's just so many cool things they could do with Shadowland that are fun, that I hope that they do. But this does give me a lot of hope for the game, and it does mean that if this game mode is a hit, then they will keep paying attention to it. So I encourage you all to check out Shadowland and play it, so that they get the metrics and they see like, whoa, this shit blowing up, and then they come back and they make even more improvements to Shadowland. And then they've made some other sort of quality of life improvements. So there's a checkbox when you go into GBR after the update where you can check always max, and then whenever you join a GBR lobby in the future, it will always set your boost points to max. So for those players who forget to do their reward count, this is amazing. I think this is a fantastic quality of life change. These are quality of life changes sometimes that I didn't even realize I wanted, which is a really nice thing, which means that they're still trying to stay on the pulse of what the players want. You can also now auto progress from stage 1 of the story mode fragment farming. So instead of having to press that little arrow to go back to stage 1 every single day, you can just stay on the last stage, and then when you go to the auto progress, you just check these 2 boxes and hit start, and it will rewind you back to stage 1. Again, another really nice quality of life that saves you a few taps on the screen and is very, very good. And then they they added some other stuff for checking some information here on Otherworld Battle. They also hid the new icons that you're going to get for Otherworld Battle, because they don't want to keep revealing content that's coming up, which I think is hilarious. It is what it is. And then they are adding some new whale bait. So we got new CTP, and it can immediately be reforged. All right, long story short on this new CTP, it's called the CTP of Conquest. So for you Alliance Conquest players, get ready to get milked. You Alliance Conquest enjoyers, you're being targeted here. So this CTP is actually pretty interesting because it has 2 effects. It actually has a baseline effect that we would otherwise assume or associate with reforged CTPs. It's called Wall. And this Wall effect, we don't know if it gives you super guard break immunity. We'll have to wait and see. But it does reduce the damage you receive by 80%, and then it decays by 3% for every hit you take. That's okay. I think it's pretty balanced. It also has guard break immunity, recovery rate, and then it's got a 10% heal. So it seems like a hybrid between something like a refinement and an authority. It seems like a hybrid between those 2 CTPs. And then when you reforge it, so like that's the baseline ability of the CTP, which I think is very strong. And then the reforge option will add the clash ability on top of the wall ability, which increases your basic damage by 60%. And then it increases it by an additional 50% of your concentration based on the number of enemies around you, up to 3 enemies. So this is, again, a very good ability for something like Alliance Conquest, or something like otherworld battle, where you're going to be fighting multiple people simultaneously. So there's sort of there's like an interesting sort of synergy, because the more enemies around, the more hits you're going to take, the faster that this wall ability is going to decay, but the clash ability is going to increase as well. So it means that the defensive ability is better when it's one-on-one, and then the offensive ability is even better when it's, you know, 1-on-3 or 3-on-3 kind of situation. And then the effect gets higher. It climbs up to 90% increased basic damage for a brilliant. So this is a very strong CTP. It will have some ability to be used on PvE characters who desperately need like healing and damage reduction and are very fragile, like a Ghost Rider. But it's most likely almost entirely a PvP, CTP. And I do think it is a bit of a power creep, and it might start replacing authorities, and it might start replacing the mighty and the brilliant egg, depending on whether the wall or clash ability has super guard break immunity. But we'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see through testing. We're also getting new comic cards, which is pretty interesting, but these are non-premium comic cards, so don't panic if you just finished your premium set and you're now worried that there's going to be some sort of power creep. These are normal comic cards, not premium cards. So these are for newer players, for free-to-play players, etc. They are very strong. They are very strong. Not as strong as premium cards because they can't be crafted, but they are strong. So you have 5 Doctor Strange cards: energy attack and increased pierce damage, physical attack and increased pierce, HP and increased pierce, cooldown and increased pierce, and then ignore defense and increased pierce. So they hit the 5 main stats, and then you have the bonus options that are good as well. These are very good. Basically, these are like top tier non-premium cards. So if I had to have a card set that was non-premium, this would be the set. And I think this is a really cool set because it gives players an ability to obtain up to 7.5% pierce without having to do craft combining and without having to do card crafting. Right? And the card crafting can take a while to start up if you don't have any of the card crafting cubes, if you haven't been grinding dimension rifts, etc. So I think this is a really good stopgap, or sort of like a bridge to help new players get into the game and make the newer game transition smoother. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future they gave away 1 or 2 of these cards immediately to new accounts just to get them going, because nowadays it takes so much to catch up to players. So I see this as like a catch-up mechanic for newer players. So don't be afraid, don't be scared if you think that these cards are going to replace the meta of cards. They're not going to replace the meta of cards. If they were premium cards, they would. I'll be honest with you. If these were premium cards and they had a 3rd fixed stat, they would be I would be replacing at least one of my cards in my set with this here. But they're not. So it's just not going to happen, because getting 1.5% increased pierce is not going to be better than the 5% you can have on a crafted card now. So there's just no world where this card would replace a well-crafted premium card. There's just no world. Having the full set of the Doctor Strange cards will give you 4% increase max all attack. Not max all attack, just all attack. So that is nice for the collection, and that'll be something that whales go after. But in general, I believe these cards are for newer players. And then we have the new artifacts. Cable's artifact looks very strong for tier 4 because the initial scaling is weak at 0.2% increased damage, but then it scales with a 0.8 multiplier with the total instinct, which obviously scales very well at tier 4. And it increases his basic damage per 1% of his crit rate. So you do want to have his crit rate capped out. Strife gets the healing artifact that Adam Warlock had. Very PvP focused. Very, very strong artifact as well. Omega Red gets kind of a lame artifact. It increases his attack by 5%, and it stacks up to 60%. We'll have to see. Omega Red's tier 2. It's kind of an awkward moment there. Domino gets a pretty interesting one. When she gets debuffed, she gets a chance to cleanse, and she gets a 20% chance to dodge all attacks for 15 seconds. So kind of nice. It's kind of a hybrid between like Deadpool's artifact and Spider-Man's artifact kind of thing. And then Warpath gets increased damage dealt to enemies with 50% HP or higher, but Warpath's not getting any buffs. And then we have the Season Pass token or icons as well. We have the Uniform Collection, which confirms that there's not more characters of this vibe coming out. And then there's other UI and sort of, quality of life improvements. So they improved the number of times you can support your alliance members in the alliance support the tab. It used to be 3 times per day or 3 people per day, but now it's 10 times per day. So you can do 10 per day, and you can also it's from 3 to 10. And then you can also give them more stuff. You can give them more of what they're asking for. So yeah, nice way to support your alliance members if you have people that are like further ahead or have more resources than others. They added some shit where you can see artifact and uniform effects in the Marvel Universe tab. You can skip the animation now when you're crafting automatically. And then there's a thing where agents can acquire a trial uniform during the guided quest. So again, this is like a new player thing. And then they improved some information in the in-game chance menu. And then they had some game error fixes, most notably that the leadership ability of Kang and Wasp was applying to all allies. That has been fixed. That was a bug. So yeah, absolutely banger update. Really the only sore spot is Omega Red, but we'll have to see how they handle him. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. I am super hype. I might do a really long live stream one of these days after the update to do a Shadowland grind. Let me know if you want to see that down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you tonight. Take care.